A few months ago, as a 17-year-old girl, I was compelled to give my elder sister the money I had received from my grandmother in order to finance her ambitions for a business. 6 years older than me, Connie, my oldest sister, has always teased me because it appears like she has a personal grudge against me. In actuality, she harasses me only because she can. She is aware that, like always, she will get away with it since our early years. When I would complain to my parents about Connie's treatment of me, they would tell me that I was being sensitive and would always advise me not to make a big deal out of things. I now understood that my parents were merely deceiving me into thinking that my elder siblings' actions were typical and I shouldn't be unhappy about it. However, I can assure you all that Connie was far worse than other elder siblings because she didn't play around with me, and the hurt she inflicted to me wasn't innocuous. Naturally, when we were younger, she would constantly try to bring me down with her harsh remarks, and my parents would urge me to stop talking, but I would never speak to her, even though she was the one causing my tears. Even while that was awful in and of itself, at least it was only spoken. But it was this one episode when I was 13 that let me realize that she wasn't simply against me. She did genuinely adore me. Consequently, Connie had brought a few of her friends along with her as my family, and I drove to the beach. At the age of 19, she had returned from college for the weekend and was spending all of her time with her friends. And the reason why things had been so bad for me was that her friends seemed to despise me just as much as she did. They must all have the same type of mental illness, I suppose, that caused them to despise those who had done them no harm at all. They had been making crude jokes about me, putting me down all the time, and basically laughing whenever I was there. I was sitting on the pier by myself, my feet hanging over the ocean, when I felt a plastic bag being thrust over my head and someone kicking me in the back. I had had enough and had chosen to take a vacation from them. I therefore tumbled into the water. It took me a good few minutes to grasp what was happening, but once I did, I saw my sister and her friends laughing and running away as I played in the water. Fortunately, I'm a strong swimmer, so as soon as I calmed down from the shock of it all, I swam as quickly as I could to return to the shore while holding the plastic bag over my head. That was the most unsettling thing that had ever happened to me. And my sister and her friends tried to play it off as a harmless prank when I returned to my parents and began crying over what had happened. But the worst was still to come. Since I've always been a whiner, my parents really laughed with them and told me that I was simply exaggerating. They claimed that nothing bad would have happened to me, and my father even joked that it had finally paid off that I had learned to swim. The plastic bag they had placed over my head was not very big, when I could have died from suffocation. In addition, I could have drowned if I hadn't realized what was going on in time and removed the bag from my head. It might have gone wrong in so many ways. They all seemed to think it really humorous, though. I was well aware that there was one daughter my parents really liked, and it was definitely not me. That episode, though, stuck with me. I decided then and there that none of these people would ever be treated like family again. I could not afford to trust any of these individuals, so my main objectives were to work well in school, get into college, and then leave. I've kept my distance from Connie ever since. But I can't exactly treat my parents the same way because I have to live with them. I have to pretend to be kind to them, which is also one of the reasons I had to give up the money I inherited 3 months prior. Notwithstanding my strong reluctance to. After my dad's mother, my grandma, passed away almost a year ago. The bequest was eventually given to us 3 months ago. Connie and I each received $5,000 from her, but she left the property she had lived in and the majority of her estate for my parents. However, she also gave me a sapphire ring that she possessed because I had told her before how much I liked it, and she had made a joke about me being able to have it when she passed away. I intended to save the substantial sum that he had for my future. However, my parents then informed me that Connie was going to launch her own company and would need to raise as much money as she could. They were depending on me to continue assisting her, even if they were already doing so. Because it was her business, I didn't think it was fair that I had to pitch in. Not to mention that throughout my entire life, Mom has only ever treated me cruelly. And all of a sudden, I was supposed to be supporting this person? I declined. However, after fighting with me for a few days, my father threatened to withhold college tuition from me and to even deny me permission to return home if I did not assist her. I was afraid of that, and I was already getting really angry at the circumstances. In the end, I said yes. Although I knew it was a bad idea, I was under a lot of stress and didn't think it was worth it to continue arguing with these folks because I still had finals to study for. I agreed to give up my inheritance because I needed some peaceful time and to stop my parents from bothering me. I mean, I could still have my ring, right? Most likely because my grandmother had only specified the ring with the blue stone in her bequest. They were unaware that it was a genuine sapphire. It worked out well for me since I understood what she was talking about and was wise enough to keep quiet because it was valuable. I ended that debate by giving up the $5,000 I had inherited from my grandmother. After 3 months, I received an acceptance to the college of my choosing. I will begin work in a few weeks. My folks are keeping their word, as they promised to do. They will cover every expense I incur, including my tuition, and they will also cover all of my out-of-state living expenses. Considering that I won't have to worry about money during my time in college, I suppose giving up my $5,000 was not such a horrible investment after all. Technically speaking, everything is still going great for me, but I feel terrible about what I did because my sister had a launch party a few days ago. She is working with the same folks she was friends with in college since she has finally managed to launch her store. You know, the ones that laughed at me as I was forced into the water with a plastic bag on my head. Since they think that everything they have created is incredibly adorable, the 3 of them now run a sizable shoes and accessory store. Although it sells mostly simple items, they consider themselves to have done something innovative. In any case, I already know that their friends will be buying there because they have a lot of yes men who will agree with them on everything. My sister emailed me a ton of pictures from the launch party, so I kind of rubbed it in her face. But there was a chance she might have had a great career ahead of her. It was evident that I had not received an invitation to the event, and upon my parents' departure, I learned that this was because it was an adult-only gathering, and as I was only 17, they were unable to bring me along. I didn't want to go anyplace, even if it was all nonsense. But the day following the celebration, Connie texted me a bunch of pictures and said that she wanted me to be arrogant because I hadn't attended the amazing party she'd thrown yesterday. She mentioned the $5,000 I had to give up for her, saying that she couldn't have done this without my assistance. I'm not sure why. It simply irritated me. And as soon as I saw the guy in the pictures, I ran straight to my gallery to look at the actual pictures to see whether the pictures supported my suspicions. He was only in the background of a few photos, so I was unable to determine if they were dating or not. He may have gained some weight and grown out his stubble, but I could still tell that he was her high school ex-boyfriend. As soon as she became 18, she began dating this guy. Let's name him Simon. He went to the same high school as the 2 of us, even though he was only 25 years old at the time. A fact, though, he had graduated much earlier than Connie, and the 2 of them had connected online when she was just 16. On her 18th birthday, he actually asked her out. While I found this quite unsettling, Connie found it endearing. Thankfully, at this point, my parents behaved like decent people and expressed their disapproval of her seeing someone who, despite being a jerk in his 20s, had been waiting for her to reach 18. They didn't want her to go out with him, but apparently she disobeyed them and went on their covert dates. He was employed by his father's firm at the time, but after only 8 months of dating, they had to split up since he was moving to Wyoming to work on a farm with his uncle, after it was rumored that his father had caught him attempting to steal from the business. She returned home to persuade my dad to seek a job here, and that's when our parents learned that she was still with him. She was devastated. In order to avoid fulfilling his parents' wishes and allowing himself to be sent to Wyoming, he decided to end his relationship with her. However, my father disregarded her advice and made her pledge to never speak to him again, as well as to block him everywhere. That day had completely upended our home since, on the one hand, Connie was pleading with our parents not to force her to end her relationship with him and assuring them that he would be better. On the other hand, my dad was berating her for disobeying their advice and associating herself with this obviously troublemaking individual. Obviously, no one involved me in anything that day, and I was advised to stay in my room and not come out while my mother simply kept crying. However, I chose to follow him on social media because I had heard his name a lot, and you tend to remember a person's face when they create such a commotion in your house. I determined to exact revenge on Connie as soon as I saw him skulking in the background of her pictures. because I was not considered family by either Connie or my parents. While my own parents didn't need much help persuading her friends, they hadn't been that simple to crack when it came to talking the business around me, as they had been very transparent about it. The most of the time they were persuading their parents to contribute to the company, as I believe it would be challenging to get additional investors given how foolish and inept they are all. However, I was positive that her mother, a single mother who was dubious about risking so much money on a store that would only sell shoes and accessories, was the last person who had been waiting to approve this business proposal. To avoid getting into a disastrous investing position, she wanted her daughter to find a job, work for a few years, gain some experience, and then come back to this. Nevertheless, Connie and her pals were committed to making this happen. After much moaning from Connie about this woman when she was at home, they finally came to the decision that they would have to get by for the time being on the money they had. And if their firm took off later, the mother of their third friend would also put money into it. That was the arrangement they had reached, and in order to fulfill it, they needed to guarantee that the initial few months of their company's operation were a great success. They currently only had enough money to last a few months, but they would undoubtedly require further funding after that, unless by some miracle they managed to do enough business on their own to maintain the status quo. However, in all honesty, it seemed improbable that a business plan would break even this quickly, particularly given their modest size and the difficulty of breaking into the fashion industry. I knew that this secret would provide the final parent, who has been holding out until now, with the excuse they needed to pull out of the agreement. I thus used a fictitious account to contact her and requested that she give me a call since I needed to discuss something crucial with her about her daughter's business. Since I wanted to stay anonymous, I made sure she called me using the Facebook call tool and withheld my number. She was unsure if this was real, so I guess she had to wait a few hours before she called me. Eventually, though, I guess her curiosity won out. Then I told her everything I had seen, including the identity of the guy who was secretly taking pictures in the background of every picture. At first, she didn't think I was serious, but I was able to convince her that my role was simply to warn her. She was free to decide whether or not she still wanted to invest in this company after this. After that, I ended the call on my own, sent her a few old photos of Simon and Connie, and let her make the final decision. Since the day after I made that phone call, I suppose she decided to back out and even instructed her daughter to do the same. Things have been very serious. No one knows that I was involved in any of this, but Connie has been phoning all the parents to try to persuade them to speak with the mother, who later changed her mind and agreed to rejoin the group. Her friends are also pretty upset with her because they find it hard to believe that she kept something like this a secret from them, and it looks like she's back with Simon. However, she had made up his identity so that no one would be able to identify him. Even our parents are not too fond of her for this. In other words, she's got a lot going on in her life, and all of them are angry with her. I genuinely want to take pleasure in everything, but I just can't bring myself to do that for some reason. I realize how important this business was to her, and now I'm questioning if I was being a bit too petty and whether my actions were incorrect. A few hours ago, I heard our parents talking about how upset they were. They were so angry with her that they were thinking of withdrawing their investment in her company since she had betrayed their confidence. Then, as they hardly ever express their displeasure with her, it truly portends trouble for her. Thus, this is a rather novel concept. Additionally, this doesn't feel as fantastic as I had anticipated. Hence, because my sister mistreated me as a child, I'm trying to ruin her business by persuading a possible investor to pull out. First update. Hello. I appreciate everyone who took the time to leave a comment on my post and offer guidance. I suppose all of you are correct. I may have been too morally reclusive to enjoy this, but I'm being sensible and won't be talking about what I did, for they would absolutely toss me out of the house if they ever found out that I was the one behind all of this. Furthermore, nothing will stop them from doing that, because in a few months I will turn 18. I really can't afford that to happen because I'm depending on them to cover my educational costs. Since my last post a week ago, Connie's situation has deteriorated significantly because her mother, who had backed out of the agreement, persuaded her daughter to follow suit. As a result, now it is only the two of them. She introduced Simon as this guy she had met on a dating app a few months ago, and she has been with him ever since. However, this other friend of hers is extremely upset with her and is demanding that they split the shares of the business 6,040. Her trust in Connie has greatly diminished after she learned that he was his secret boyfriend who stole from his father's company. She was attempting to cling to that tale, though, even after her friend's mother revealed the reality. However, no one was still convinced of that. She even attempted to pass off the photos as being phony, speculating that they might have been photoshopped to make her appear dishonest. She has been seeing our parents virtually every day, and while they have been reprimanding her for her actions, they have also continued to try to assist her, to attempt and come up with a plan so she wouldn't lose her stake in the company. The three of them meet with their lawyer every evening. The likelihood of them having to close down due to this issue is rather high. I honestly don't know how I will feel about it, but I've just decided to stop thinking about this altogether if they can't settle this dispute swiftly. The only positive thing that has come out of the whole mess is that no one really pays attention to me anymore because Connie is in trouble. I am therefore free to come and go as I want and to do with my time what I please. It's pleasant. It has definitely made me less of a focus. And even when Connie comes around, she's too preoccupied with her own predicament to pay attention to me. Neither do my parents say anything to me. I'm spending my final few weeks at home before heading off to college. And so far, it's going really well. I don't have to answer to anyone about what I do during the day. And to be really honest, I think my parents and Connie won't even notice if I wind up spending more time at my friend's house than at mine for a few days or longer. However, as I previously stated, this is the one positive outcome of the circumstance, and I sincerely hope that they will leave me alone until the time comes for me to enroll in college. Additionally, I'm crossing my fingers that this circumstance has no bearing on my parents' decision to cover my college costs, something I hadn't given much thought to before. But while I was writing this, it struck me that I would be in big trouble if it happened. I will, however, take solace in the knowledge that Connie is worse off than I am. Update 2. Almost 2 weeks have gone by since my last post, and although nothing significant had happened to me until last week, I no longer believe that I am secure. However, a few days ago, I suppose the woman I had called eventually buckled under the pressure and revealed to Connie how exactly she had discovered this previous connection. She didn't give her the whole story, just that Connie had received an anonymous call and a few pictures from someone, which is how she had discovered, since everyone has worked out that Connie did not meet him on a dating service, and that the images were real. She is no longer attempting to hide the fact that she knew him, was briefly in a relationship with him, and didn't actually. And she certainly thought of me first when she learned that there was an anonymous phone call involved. I was very unfortunate to be downstairs when she came to visit us yesterday because I had planned to go hang out with a friend. But as soon as she saw me, she stormed inside the home and gave me the worst shove she could manage. I shoved her back, losing my balance and my temper in the process. Then she took hold of my hair and began yelling in my face, telling me that she was certain that I had made the phone call and that she would make sure I paid for it. Even though I was terrified, I had to keep my composure so she wouldn't figure out the truth. Furthermore, I wanted to maintain that it was not me. I became enraged and yelled at her, telling her that it wasn't me and that I wouldn't even know who to talk to because I had only ever met her parents and friends once, during a lunch gathering a few weeks before to the business opening. I was lying through my teeth, of course, but I did my best to make it seem plausible. We screamed at each other for a few seconds before our parents finally intervened and got us to stop. Subsequently, Connie insisted that I give her and my parents access to my laptop and phone, alleging that she didn't trust a word I said and that I was the one who had ruined her hopes of a successful business career. Even though I knew this was going to happen and had mentally prepared myself, I still lost my mind over it because it would sound suspicious if I simply nodded. Nevertheless, since I had completely cleared all of my gadgets of any information that would have identified me as the caller of the anonymous call, I had nothing to be afraid of. Furthermore, Connie believed that I had called her friend's mother using my phone number rather than the Facebook account I had constructed expressly to get in touch with her friend's mother and later deleted. Thus, she was initially completely mistaken. Additionally, despite searching through all of my social media sites, she and my parents were unable to locate anything, when she could discover no evidence to support her assertions that I had informed her friends about her history. Simon, though, lost it when she saw me and began ranting at me, accusing me of wiping all of my gadgets on purpose and knowing that it was me. I battled with her, telling her that she had no right to take it out on me and that she had gone insane just because she was going to lose her business. Things eventually became a little quieter, and she began to cry. I felt like I was set to go, but then my parents decided to speak with me and admitted that there was no evidence they could uncover to link me to the release of this information. Nevertheless, they accept Connie's word for it because she appeared to be quite certain of it. It literally could not have been them either, even though they had been at the party and had seen Simon but not recognized him. After all, no one else could have known about this. That left simply me, as it was evident that I might have retaliated when Connie provided those images with Simon in the backdrop in an attempt to irritate me. And then it turned out to be exactly what I had feared would happen. They informed me that they were canceling their plan to pay for my college tuition since they knew it was me, even if they couldn't find any proof. They did not want any more disputes over this, so I was on my own now. It was then my turn to start crying and screaming. But since I wasn't Connie, no one seemed to care. I eventually walked back to my room, locked myself in, and began writing this post as a diversion after around 30 minutes of pleading, yelling, and shedding many tears with no answer from their end. I could sell the sapphire ring my grandmother had owned, but I'm not sure it would be enough to fund my 3 years of college. With only a few weeks until the payment deadline approaches, I'm thinking of taking out a student loan and asking a member of my family to co-sign because, as I mentioned before, I can't risk anything. Not even if I manage to pay for the first semester by selling the ring. The rest I'm not sure of, and I'll have to sort it out later. 3 updates. Hi everyone, a lot has happened since my last update. Since I haven't posted in a month, allow me to begin with sharing my experience. A few days after my last post, I moved out of my parents' house since I had no reason to stay with them or stay in contact now that they were not funding my college education. I packed up my belongings and moved in with a friend. She welcomed me to move in and live with her and her family after we had already discussed everything. After staying with her for a few days during her gap year, she and her parents told me that she actually had no interest in attending college at all, and that she wanted to start working at her dad's company. I could use her parents' college fund temporarily, though. They had placed it aside for her. Even if I attempted to say no, they persuaded me. As her parents were well versed in my background and believed that sending me to college would be just as beneficial as sending their own daughter, I was genuinely unable to decline such an offer. I decided to take them up on it, and although I'm positive they don't expect me to return the favor, I will make sure to do so. I'm currently enrolled in college without even having to sell my grandmother's ring. I'm so appreciative of my friend's parents. Connie's story didn't turn out well either because she sold all of the company's stock, leaving her pals as the sole owners of the establishment. It was clear that no one could truly trust her longer, so she had to admit her defeat and go away. Regretfully, my parents were powerless to stop it because it was entirely beyond their control. Since she was the one who came up with the idea in the first place, she's probably upset about it. But she should probably be relieved because I don't think the store will do well in the long run. That's none of my concern though, as I no longer communicate with them. For now, I will only concentrate on my future.